Alright folks, we're going to talk about prior restraint and how important it is. First, it is defined in the First Amendment law, and the definition reads, in First Amendment law, prior restraint is government action that prohibits speech or other expression before the speech happens. The overview states, prior restraint typically happens in a few ways. It may be a statute or regulation that requires a speaker to acquire a permit or license before speaking. Prior restraint can also be a judicial injunction that prohibits certain speech. There is a third way discussed below in which the government outright prohibits a certain type of speech. Courts typically disfavor prior restraint and often find it to be unconstitutional. Now, what we do on YouTube is publication of news, folks. That's extremely important to understand because we're going to talk about prior restraint of freedom of press. The issue of prior restraint often occurred when the state sought to prevent a news publication from publishing something. In Neer v. Minnesota, 283 U.S. 697 in 1931, a statute authorized the prior restraint of a news publication. The Supreme Court held that such a statute is unconstitutional. However, the court did find that prior restraint may be allowed in exceptional cases, such as when the nation is at war or when the speech would incite violence. And in New York Times v. U.S. 403 U.S. 713 in 1971, the United States government tried to stop the New York Times and the Washington Post from publishing classified government documents. The Supreme Court held that the government's arguing of security did not trump the newspaper's freedom of speech as guaranteed by the First Amendment. The court held that in order to support an issuance of prior restraint, the government needs to prove that the newspaper publication would cause inevitable, direct, and immediate danger to the United States. And in Hazelwood School District v. Kuhlmeyer, 484 U.S. 260 in 1988, public school officials attempted to prevent the school's students-run newspaper from publishing certain information. The Supreme Court held that in a public school, educators are entitled to a higher degree of control over a student-run newspaper than a government would have over a professional newspaper. The Supreme Court understood that prior restraint also had to cover not just freedom of speech, but also the freedom of press.